We're going to begin the service in a moment. If I could ask you to please be seated. At this time, we're going to begin the services here in our chapel for Mrs. Rebecca Adelman. As we begin the service, I would ask if any of you has a cell phone or any other noise-making device, please turn them off at this time. Officiating the service here today is Cantor Stephen Storr from Congregation Beth Shalom in Northbrook.
In the pamphlets that you've been provided with, I believe there's a translation of the 23rd Psalm, and we'd love for you to add your voices to the service by reading that aloud with me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures, still waters, he restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou hast prepared me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness shall follow me all the days of my life. House of the Lord forever. The traditional Hebrew. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar, benot yashar betzeni al mei menuchot yenahaleni. Nafshi yishovev yancheni v'marlei tzedek leman shemo. גם כי ילך בגיא צל מוות לא ירא כי אתה עמדי שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צוררי דשנת בר שמן ראשי כוסי רוויה Ach, tov v'chesed yirדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. In times of sadness, it's tradition that the Jewish faith turns to the book of Psalms. That was the 23rd Psalm. Psalm 103 says, Karachemav al banim richam Adonai al yireyav. As a parent has compassion for their child, God has compassion for his children as well. God knows how we are fashioned, that being but from the dust of the earth. The days of a mortal are like grass. We too shall flourish like a flower in the field, and when the wind passes over us, we too shall be gone. But God's compassion is everlasting. God's kindness to his children and their children, l'dor v'dor, endures age after age, unchanging. Rebecca passed away on the first day of Kislev, the first day of the month in which we celebrate the holiday of Hanukkah. She also passed on that same day, which was Friday. Friday and Hanukkah, we think about lights. I'm sure she lit many a Shabbat candle in her lifetime on Friday evenings, and I'm sure all of you had celebrated Hanukkah and lit many candles during that time. She was herself a beacon, a light to each of you that have illuminated your lives. She was, in a way, the shamash, that candle that gave her light to all of the other little candles so that they would have brightness in their lives. It was so coincidental and appropriate that she passed on these holy moments. There's a poem called A Mother's Letter to Her Daughters by a Rabbi Karen Kadar that I'd like to share with you. It was written to this person's daughters, but it addresses all of us, Alan, of course, and the family as well. It says, "The morning you wake to bury me, you'll wonder what to wear. You'll say to yourself, black, black, aren't you supposed to wear black? And then you will remember all the times we went together to buy clothes, maybe a prom, a homecoming, or maybe just for another pair of jeans, or a sweater, or another pair of shoes. But you will remember how I loved to dress you. So let me tell you one last time before you dress what to wear. Put on any old thing, black or red, skirt or pants, for despite what I told you all these years, it really doesn't matter. Because as I told you all these years, you are beautiful the way you are. For that very moment, when all that will be left of me is to give love, that day, remember our love." There are countless references in the Bible about women who are praised, from Sarah to Miriam, to Esther and Ruth and to Rivka. Rebecca was one of those iconic Jewish women of valor. She was a survivor twice over. Once during the European Holocaust, and the second Holocaust, which she would endure in her lifetime. To her, that was when she lost her firstborn, Anna. She was, for Rebecca, a divine promise of the rebuilding of the Jewish people who had been decimated. She was a young girl who could speak Yiddish, and you told me who always clung to her mother so closely. They were, Pammy shared, inseparable. Rebecca was so proud of her Jewish heritage, you shared with me. She was the balabusta of the home, cooking delicious meals, and the woman who had perfected the art of mandel bread. Having been born over a century ago, it is stupefying to imagine everything that she was able to witness since her birth. Technology, advancements in science and medicine and politics. She had lived through numerous wars and had seen miraculous advancement in innovations such as space travel. She had seen the inventions of countless products, such as frozen food and sliced bread. In fact, sliced bread was not invented until 1927, which makes Rebecca the best thing since before sliced bread. I had the honor of visiting with her just the other day. She was not as energetic as no doubt she once was, but her smile and her eyes spoke the joy she was feeling as her family was surrounding her. You combed her hair. I sang a song. And Rebecca spoke to her granddaughter's name, Judy, when she came close to her Nana's face. Such a sweet moment. Another fascinating fact is that she was around to be able to witness the birth of each and every one of us in this room. She lived through it all. She was born in Żupreni, if I said it correctly, a small town on the edge of eastern Poland, now Lithuania. She recalled her history to her family over the many, many years. She lived in a large home, which was a necessity, as her parents were blessed with 7 children. Her father, Abraham, owned a butcher shop, while her mother was the real homemaker, baking breads and caring for her home and family, which is obviously where Rebecca learned it. She remembered her many girlfriends with whom she enjoyed growing up in their Jewish community. You taught me that she would go to secular school with them, but after, she would come home, have a snack, which her mother would have prepared for her, and then she'd go off to Cheder, Hebrew school. She loved learning. She was somewhat advanced and would have taken from her regular classroom, and she was going to have private lessons with the rabbi, a great honor. And while it was an honor, Rebecca missed being with her friends. Auf im Pripetschek brennt a Feierl, und in Stub is heiß, und der Rebbe lernt kleine Kinderlach, dem Aleph Beis. Und der Rabbi lernt kleine Kinderlach, dem Aleph Beis. Zetsche Kinderlach, gedenksche Teiere, was lernet da. Sogsche noch amol und Tage noch amol, kommet Aleph O. Sogsche noch amol und Tage noch amol, kommet Aleph O. A favorite song of hers, I was told, a story about the rabbis teaching the small children how to read the Aleph-Bet, the ABCs. At the age of 13, Rebecca and her friend Rivka went to a different school in Vilna, a type of, possibly I overheard, a business school, some different type of school, and they stayed in a rented room together. Rebecca admired some of Rivka's new fashion clothing, but her mother, who was old-fashioned, was stuck to dressing Rebecca in a more traditional outfits. She did convince her father, however, at some point to buy her some materials, and she herself sewed a jumper for herself because she wanted to look like Rivka. Rebecca had and always maintained an eye for design and for style. Even in her mature years, she would not be hesitant to offer commentary on your home decor and your outfits, a veritable, you said, Yves Saint Laurent of the family. As Rebecca and her friend Rivka had been brought up in religious homes, they would follow the lessons of their upbringing. They were so devoted to maintaining their lifestyles, their customs, which you said swayed the female landlord that they had to even become more observant herself. In 1938, the Russians would move into the region of Poland where they had lived. Significant changes were made, and their town of Zupreni was not recognizable to them any longer. And then in 1939, the German army led by Hitler came in and created a ghetto by limiting the diameter of space in their neighborhood, and in which 5 families were mandated to live together. Thinking that she would someday return back to her original home, you said that she schlepped the family china cabinet across the street into the rabbi's home for safety. She often spoke of one sibling, in particular her older brother Shimon, who she described to her family as smart, a man filled with potential to become someone special, and a person very strong-willed. He would ultimately fight in the resistance. After a period of fighting, he was able to escape, but his consciousness drove him to return and try to free others. And in that moment is when his life sadly was taken. Rebecca was to be reassigned from one ghetto to another until she landed in work camps, and then Stutthof, a German concentration, forced labor, and extermination camp. She survived there for 2 years. During this time, she did have one blessing, her sister Chashi. Chashi was there with her throughout the entire time. Rebecca would work hard to keep her sister's spirit and hopes up. Her younger brother Sam had also been taken by the Germans, but he was separated from them. One day the girls awoke, you taught me, expecting to see the German guards standing outside of their barrack, but to their surprise the soldiers were gone. The shovels and other military instruments were abandoned behind them. The liberation was taking place. The 2 girls were filled with joy, only to realize that they were still not free, as the Russians came back and established a kinder but yet forced labor environment. 2 years later, the girls would somehow make their way to Bergen-Belsen, based on a rumor that their brother Sam was there. It was there that Rebecca would meet Seymour, and her sister Chashi would meet Itzik, a friend of Sam's. They did have a double wedding in the winter of March 1949, March 31st. There was no way for them to traverse their way back to their own hometowns, and so they shifted their intentions to get to Israel. When that plan did not come to fruition, due to paperwork and visas and other issues, I'm sure, they decided to come to the United States. And it was through HIAS, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, that Seymour's Aunt Lena was able to vouch for them and to vouch that she would be able to offer them a place to live here in America. They could not acquire airplane tickets, but they were able to board a cargo ship, which she was to take to Ellis Island and to land in New York. The idea was a dream come true, but the ride on the cargo liner was horrid, you taught me. Rebecca had become pregnant after their marriage, and the topsy-turvy boat was sickening her. They had not reserved any manners of comfy accommodations. In fact, they were put in the basement cargo hold, where Rebecca would have to be cared for with intravenous IV for several days. By the age of 24, Rebecca had tragically lost a lot of her family. But she was coming to America with Seymour and Chashi and Itzik, and her brother Sam would come over just a little bit later. Miracle of miracles, coming to America, only knowing Polish and Yiddish and Russian were the hurdles that she would have to overcome as she began to learn English. Seymour and Rebecca lived first in Albany Park, and then in 1969 moved to Skokie, and then in 2006 the two of them moved into this condo. As Pammy said, they enjoyed their little shtetl here in Skokie and all of the neighboring towns. What made the deal of buying their home here was proximity, you told me, to the synagogue and to transportation, because she didn't drive. You recalled taking the number 97 Skokie bus for many, many years, and you enjoyed membership at Skokie Central Traditional Synagogue. Rebecca's was not only blessed with a wonderful home and community, but this beautiful family. Husband of 64 years, Seymour. They had shared the horrors of European Nazi anti-Semitism, and then they shared the experience of the freedom of America. Seymour did his share outside the home, while she, the balabusta, cared for you, her family. During one stage of their lives, Rebecca helped to nurse a sick Seymour and jumped through hoops to actually save his life. She schlepped him onto a train all the way to Mayo Clinic to find a cure for what was ailing him. He would stay there for 2 months, assigned to a bed in the basement of the hospital because the family didn't have health insurance. He recovered, but it would take them some 20 years to pay back their bills. Rebecca was blessed with children, Anna, of blessed memory, Linda, Pammy, Alan, as well as David and Nathan, who joined the family some years ago. And then Jen, Judy, Adam, and Jeremy, and then added to that generation, Brian was brought into her heart as well. Then the crowning jewels, Abby, Zach, Sammy, Stella, Ellie, Zoe, Mia, and Aria. For a while in her earlier years in Poland, she also delighted the company of Mopsy, her dog, which she always said she wasn't sure if it was a dog, a bear, or a wolf, but that was her loving pet. And to all of you, she was the balabusta, the Eshet Chayil, the caregiver, and jüdische Mama, es gibt nicht besser auf der Welt. Jüdische Mama, oi, wie wir bitter, wenn sie fällt. Wie schön inlichtig ist in Haus, wenn dir Mama ist doch. Wie treurig finster wird, wenn Gott nehmt ihr auf eurem Habo. My Yiddish Mama, I need her more than ever now. My Yiddish Mama, I'd like to kiss her wrinkled brow. I long to hold her hands once more, as in days gone by, and ask her to forgive me for the things I did to make her cry. How few were her pleasures. She never cared for fashion styles. Her jewels and her treasures, she found them in her baby's smiles. Oh, I know that I owe what I am today to that dear little lady so old and gray, to that wonderful Yiddish mama, mama of mine. And to speak about that beautiful mama, we will be listening to Alan and Pammy, then Jen, Jeremy, and Adam. Please.
Thank you for being here with us today as we honor the life and memory of our dear mom, Rebecca, or Rivka, or simply Nana, as many of you knew her. She saw and experienced so much in her long, complicated, and difficult life, which spanned 2 continents, from Poland, Russia, and Germany, in Eastern Europe, and eventually to the United States. More than that, she came from a different period of time, the old world, the old country, where there were no modern conveniences, and they traveled on horse and buggy, and on bicycles, or just on foot. While my mom became more modern over the years, she never drove a car. She never used a computer. She never used a smartphone. But somehow, she managed to get around and get things done, using her old-fashioned wits and boundless energy. To get to know her a little bit more, let's take a stroll through some of the things that she loved in her life. She loved her hometown, her small town of Zhuprani. It was a small Jewish enclave, similar to what we can recall from the play Fiddler on the Roof, where everyone knew each other and there were lots of street activities and bustling life on the small shops and farms and all things that kept the village alive. She loved to go shopping for her mom, to pick up bread from the bakery and salami from the delicatessen. She loved to decorate her house. As a young girl, she rearranged the furniture always. She sewed new drapes and reupholstered the chairs. She did have a knack for style and taste. She loved her schools. First it was public school in the morning, and then cheder in the afternoons. She loved playing with the other children, hanging out and kibitzing with her girlfriends. She loved her dog Mupsy, the brown mutt that her father brought home one day. Every day she would scratch his belly with a stick. Nearby there were farms and forests and lakes to explore with her friends. Her loving memories of Zhuprani were still vivid even in her later years. Just 2 years ago, she said to me, "When I die, Zhuprani will die." Indeed, most of the town there is barren now, its history and charm erased. Settling first in Chicago on the west side, my mom loved to go shopping at the Jewish-owned stores on Roosevelt Road. There was the fruit and vegetable shop, the kosher meat market, the live chicken store, the bakery, and so much more. Creating a traditional Jewish household and raising her young family was her total focus as a young mother in the 1950s and 60s. She loved to cook and bake, and she was an exceptional gourmet chef in her own right. Mostly relying on memories of her mother's recipes, she would put together incredible feasts every week with all the traditional Jewish delicacies. When I was young, I was a picky eater, as most kids are, so I didn't appreciate all that was being put on the table, but now I do for sure. It's too much to list, but every delectable Jewish dish that you can imagine came out of her tiny, tiny kitchen, and the food was always overflowing. Anyone who came into the house was implored to eat, and eat some more. I don't know if you can say that she loved working as a cashier at my dad's small grocery store in Evanston. After all, it's still work, but she put her heart and soul into it. And when she came on board full-time in the 1970s, with her watchful presence and bright attitude, the store experienced a major turnaround and became much busier and more successful. She came to all my Little League games, and while she didn't exactly understand what was happening on the field, she loved to sit with the other parents and watch me play. Eventually, she came to understand baseball and started to follow and love the Chicago Cubs on television. She clapped and cheered whenever there was a home run. Her favorite player was Anthony Rizzo, and it thrilled her that the Cubs ended their century-long drought and won the World Series in 2016. She loved playing friendly card games. The ladies often played Kaluki, and she loved playing bingo at the Temple or at the American Legion Hall. She loved to get her hair and nails done, especially when there were weddings, bar mitzvahs, and other simchas to go to. She loved getting pampered, fixed up, and dressed up. She loved to travel with my father and my sisters. Early family trips were by car to places like South Haven, Michigan, or Schwartz's Resort. Later, there were visits to Las Vegas to see the shows and play the slot machines. Annual trips to Florida as snowbirds later in life, and several visits to Arizona and California, and longer excursions to Israel and Poland as well. She loved walking right up into her last year, and she loved planting annual flowers all around the backyard at our Skokie house. When she was walking or gardening, you knew that she was happy and content, but because she was always humming a lively tune under her breath. Music was a big part of my mom's life. She loved beautiful music, love songs, and all sorts of uplifting music from the 40s to the present. Some of her favorite artists were Eddie Fisher, Connie Francis, the Berry Sisters, Barbra Streisand, and Celine Dion. And finally, of course, she loved her family, the one she grew up with and the family she raised here in Chicago and Skokie. Her dear husband, Seymour, may he rest in peace, her children, her grandchildren, and her many great-grandchildren. She wasn't fancy, she was practical, realistic, humble, and selfless. She did everything for her kids. It always raised her spirits and put a smile on her face when the many young ones came and visited. And that's how we want to remember her, with that lovely, smiling face, that lovely, loving smile on her beautiful face. Thank you.
There's a Yiddish word that means the ultimate homemaker, the mother and wife who keeps the whole world turning with love, food, and warmth. Most of you know it, balabusta. And that's my mother, completely, perfectly, unmistakably. My mom was tiny in stature, truly a little person, but she lived a big, full life, one that stretched over 100 years. However, she never, ever looked her age. She had an eye for style and enjoyed social events. She dressed beautifully, enjoyed getting her hair done, getting manicures, getting her makeup put on. Going to a bar mitzvah or wedding was the highlight for her. She was always happy, no matter what. And her smile was infectious. Even though she had pain, she smiled and was so happy when the rabbi came to visit her the day before she passed. She devoted herself to my father, may he rest in peace, for 65 years, and to her 4 children. We were the center of her world. Her day revolved around making sure we were all fed very well, cared for, and loved beyond measure. And then there was her mandelbread, her signature creation, her masterpiece. People didn't just like her mandelbread, they talked about it, they wanted it, they hoped she'd bring it for them, and she always did. She never walked into anyone's home empty-handed. Wanting her legacy to continue, my mom bought each of us, Jennifer, Judy, Linda, and I, the same wooden spoon that she used. She was convinced that if we stirred the dough exactly the way she did, we would make the mandelbread just like her. And we really, really tried. Truly, but we all knew no spoon, no recipe, no amount of stirring will ever recreate the love she put into hers. Something inside that mandelbread was uniquely, beautifully her. As a grandmother, she poured that same love and determination into babysitting when her 4 grandchildren were young. Multiplication tables always came before toys. She was so good at math and felt it was so important to learn the basics. After the learning was done, the kitchen would erupt with baking, this time with apple pies. Those are memories that will stay sweet forever. We will miss her deeply, her Yiddish words, her hugs, her beautiful smile, and her love. She lives on in our kitchens. She lives on in our Jewish traditions. She lives on in the wooden spoons she gave us, and she lives on in the stories we will tell. Her life was a blessing. Her love was a gift. Her mandelbread was unforgettable, and her memory will forever bring tears, laughter, and warmth. My mom is now reunited with my dad, my beautiful sister Anna, her brothers and sisters, and her beloved parents. My mom was tiny, but she lived big. She was strong, loving, funny, and devoted. She was always the ultimate balabusta. Now I want to honor her wonderful caregivers. Nadia, Simona, Maria, and Svetlana, who loved, protected her, and cared for her with dignity and tenderness. Nadia knew my mother before her illness. They became so close, truly like family. Nadia loved her deeply and lovingly called her my little princess. But in Nadia's Ukrainian accent, it was my little princess. It was a name filled with tenderness. Nadia continued to take such loving care for her with patience, compassion, and dignity. Nadia was a blessing. Simona was with my mom when she passed. She prayed for her every night and cared for her with such gentle respect. Her quiet, nurturing presence gave my mother a peaceful transition. We will always treasure that bond. Maria and Svetlana were always there making sure she ate, was comfortable, was warm, and was cared for. They showed up every day and their devotion meant everything. Thank you.
Hi. I feel like I'm really tall. I have to hold it. My name is Jennifer, and I am Rebecca's oldest granddaughter. My grandma and I had a very special connection. I loved learning about her past and her family, and we talked about it all the time. In 2018, she agreed to take a DNA test, and we found cousins in Israel, South Africa, the USA, and other countries throughout Europe. We Zoomed with some of these people, and hearing my grandmother talk to someone she had never met about a shared shtetl experience from her past was a moment I will never forget. In the last 2 years, she told us her stories of survival that we had never heard before. One story in particular has struck me with a short story she told about a time when she was on her death march. It was January 1945, and they were leaving Stutthof and marching west into Germany because the Russians were coming to take over, and the Germans wanted to keep the Jews prisoners. So one night, they were sleeping in a barn, and they were not given any food. And my grandma was starving, and she snuck away to a nearby farm and knocked on a door and asked the woman who answered if she had any food. And the woman said she only had stew, but because my grandmother didn't have a bowl, she couldn't have any food. And so my grandmother made a little pocket in her dress and told the woman to put the stew in the little pocket. And so she ran back to the barn to share the stew with Chashi, and they ate this particular meal together. This was one of the ways my grandmother survived, is that she was always able to figure things out and solve problems and find a way through. Now I'm going to be a cantor for a moment. It is known in Jewish wisdom that every family has one shamash, or helper light, someone who helps others see better, clearer, farther, and with greater precision. Really realizing that my grandmother passed away on the 1st of Kislev is particularly poignant. Kislev is the month that contains Hanukkah, the festival of lights that commemorate the rededication of the temple and celebrates the triumph of religious freedom over oppression. My grandmother was deeply committed to keeping family memory alive and kindling the flames of continuity. This timing becomes profoundly meaningful. Just as the shamash stands apart yet central, giving its own light to illuminate each night of Hanukkah, a survivor like my grandmother who bears witness and passes down stories, traditions, and the names of those lost serves this sacred function for their family and community. They become the flame that refuses to be extinguished, the light that enables all other lights, children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. I have taken on the role of the next shamash, and I am proud to have learned all her family history. To pass away at the threshold of Kislev just before the season of these candles represents a life fully lived in service and in transmission of the memories. A shamash who has completed the holy work of ensuring that the darkness could not claim the final victory, that light continues long after she is gone. My grandmother lived a long life, suffered many losses, including that of her firstborn daughter, my mother, Esther Levitt. As we each face hardships, loss, and challenges in our lives, may we remember the grace and strength my grandmother showed in holding these, and may it be a North Star for those who come after her. May her memory will forever be an immense blessing in this world. Amen.
Hi, I'm Jeremy, her youngest grandchild. I just wanted to share a few memories that I had of my Nana. So some of my earliest memories were their house in Skokie, where with my grandpa I would pretend to be on a flight to California to visit my Aunt Linda, and Nana would come and she would be like the stewardess for the flight, bring us snacks, make sure that we were eating. As I grew older, I mean, I also remember the memories in their place in Florida. We would bake mandel bread together, apple pies, and also lots of rum cube. She was very good at that. Even several years ago, we were playing together. As I grew older, she was very concerned about my dating life, including up to her last words to me on Wednesday. I came to visit, and she said that she hopes I find someone nice, and said goodbye to me at that point. I also remember during college, knowing that one day this day would come, I made sure to call her once a week, just check in, share how everything was going. I also wanted to recognize my mom and my Uncle Alan. This past year, they spent every single day making sure that she was good and helping her out. And ever since my grandpa passed, also they've been helping pretty much every single day, making sure that she was good. So, thank you.
My name is Adam. I'm one of her other grandchildren. I'm going to read something that we received from Cousin Perry over in California, who wasn't able to make it today. So one cannot emphasize enough that as we got older, the significance of who your mother was and stood for was far more than the person herself. She was an icon of history and the Jewish people, much more so than any of us, for indeed we stand on her and your father's shoulders. The testimony to her stature is not something I made up because it is evidenced by the fact that this week's Torah Parsha dealt with none other than Rivka and her securing Isaac's blessing for Jacob and the Jewish people. That didn't happen by chance. That exemplifies your mother's connection to divine truth and recognition of what her survival meant. It is a direct connection and message to us all, and a reason we need to take on at least one more connection to Torah and mitzvot. This is why I always asked your mother for a bracha every time I spoke to her, because any survivor is considered a tzaddik, as a saint of high level, and her passing during this last week shows us all the MS of Torah as presented every week. People should know the underlying truth and connection your mother had while being humble, and it was up to us to recognize it through her persona. We actually could not appreciate it enough until we get older. Thank you.
Everything, every syllable that you shared with us was a moment of love. The fact that Thanksgiving is this week fits right into all of your sentiments. Be it family that were blood relations or those that married in, Rebecca cherished you all. Nathan, her Mr. Fix-It, was a special addition into her life. Itzik, her brother-in-law, was another donor of love in her life, spending countless hours while working with Seymour in the store, and they would visit Chashi and Itzik when they would go down to Florida to visit. As Alan already noted, once Itzik and Chashi moved to Florida, it was Rebecca from 1975 until 1986 who became Seymour's business partner as well as life partner, 24/7 together, and she certainly helped to bolster the store's growth. It was told to me, I think Judy was the one who whispered it the other day as we met, that Rebecca enjoyed watching soap operas. Where often the plot of those soap operas based themselves around the matriarch of the families. So allow me this conclusion. Like many soap operas through her decades, Rebecca was a guiding light to each of you, and she loved all her children. As we have but one life to live, we must count the days of our lives and stay young and restless when it comes to being a true participant in life. Even in these solemn hours when you feel that you are on the edge of night amidst the dark shadows, you must hold on to your faith in one another. Your lives must go on as you search for tomorrow, but not without keeping Rebecca central in your heart as you recall this brave and beautiful woman. As the world turns, each of us shall come to our final moments. Some will find themselves under the care of the doctors in a general hospital, or like Rebecca, be blessed to be within her own home when she took her final breaths. When in our final hours, as we sense this secret storm of life coming to an end, may we be as blessed as she was to have found love and to have built this dynasty over which she quelled each and every day, and as you shall quell over the love you had the blessing to have with her in your lives. Amen. If you'll stand, I will recite a memorial prayer in her honor. El male rachamim shochein bamromim hametzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei השכינה במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמות רבקה בת אברהם וחנה שלחה לעולמו בגן עדן תהא מנוחתה אנא בעל רחמים הסתירך בשאת כנפיך לעולמים וצרור בצרור החיים החיים את נשמתה אדוני הוא נחלתה ותנוח בשלום בשלום המשכבה ונאמר Amen. Dear God, creator of us all, we pray that you offer an infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the souls that are holy and pure to the soul of Rebecca Adelman, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that this beloved individual find a perfect peace in your embrace, in the embrace of the souls who have gone before her, and to forever be embraced in the hearts of those who remain. May her soul be bound up in the bonds of life. May the next time this burgeoning, beautiful, loving family have reason to come together only be a most happy day in your lives. Amen.
Please be seated. This concludes the service here in our chapel. The interment will take place immediately at the family's plots at Memorial Park Cemetery, 9700 Grosse Pointe Road here in Skokie. Following the service today, the family will be sitting at the Adelman residence, 9350 South Skokie Boulevard, Unit 510 here in Skokie. They'll sit today until 6 p.m. There will be Marav and Minka service at 4:30 p.m. The family will also be sitting at that residence Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from 6 until 9 p.m., and there'll be a Minka service at 7 p.m. each of those days. All of that information is on the funeral service folder you should have received. If you did not receive one, they are available as you depart today. I'd also like you to please take note below the Shiva information. The family has asked that memorial contributions be made to the Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Center. And again, that information is on the service folder. For those of you watching the service online, all of this information is on the website you are currently on. For those of you going in procession with the family, please make sure you get an orange funeral safety sticker. You should place that in the front passenger side of your windshield. But also ask you to please have your bright headlights and flashing hazard lights on at all times. For an additional measure of safety, our staff will be placing flags on the tops of the vehicles throughout the procession. But as we drive today, even in a short trip, drive as close as safety permits to the vehicle in front of you at all times. We want to avoid having any large spaces or large gaps in the procession, particularly as we pass through the intersections. The following individuals have been selected to act as pallbearers. As I call your names, if you'd please step forward. Brian Cohen, Nathan Kriska, Adam Kriska, Jeremy Kriska, Zachary Sosno, Sammy Sosno, and Jackie O. If I could ask everyone to please rise as the deceased and her family and the cantor are escorted from the chapel.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, ויעקב ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו, ויעקב ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו, ויעקב ישראל.